think the hardest part of technology is usually getting the AV to work for you and figuring out where the big green button is. So I'm delighted to be here with you and to share some of the lessons we've learned on this journey of being an API corporation, or what I like to call the journey of the doers. We did approach things a little bit differently, much to the chagrin of people we first pitched this to also from an investment perspective. We decided, let's start with the API, which was very foreign at the time because people were looking at APIs as something you layered on top of the solution or you layered on top of some data you wanted to give people access to. But for us, we thought it was important to look at the API as the business or as the corporation. And our advent was making communications, voice, messaging, and voice over IP accessible to web and mobile app developers. Our API and software allowed us to meet an unmet need while the carriers or the telcos lagged behind. The reason we exist is because our API made it possible to unlock what we call the black box of telephony. Copper, switching gears, very, very arcane telephony protocols. And this isn't to criticize the telcos, by the way. This was the business that they were able to give birth to for us. We leverage what they have out there, but the API is what really gave us access and gave the whole web developer world access to telecommunications. So what gets us excited every day is that APIs are really about software, and we think of ourselves as serving software people. Now, I will say the caveat here is while software people does seem very much about developers, it's really about anyone that thinks about the world a little bit differently, that thinks about the world through what we call the lens of software. That means looking at any business problem, commercial problem, social challenge, and peeling it back, turning it into a software issue, and then solving it at scale. So what we get excited about is every day our API is serving software people, both the developer side and the business side, to really solve their business problems. Now, couple that with the fact that there are a whole lot of creative developers out in the world. In fact, there are 18.2 million developers in the latest survey. That's 1 million more than last year. And they expect this to grow at 6.1%, meaning as we get into next year, there will be 19.4 million developers that are out there solving the world's problems, looking for those APIs that are going to make a difference. And in case any of you were curious, about 4 million of those are right here in North America. And this data starts changing that when you look at about 5 years out, you do start seeing where APAC starts getting to be even more dominant in this picture. But there are a lot of people out there that are going to be critical to moving APIs forward. And they are solving the wealth of challenges. Again, when you take a look, you've got people doing business-to-business e-commerce problems. You've got people doing collaboration and groupware, development tools, utilities, games, all those business problems that are out there. So we get excited because there's this world of software people, and there are so many developers that are thinking in this same mindset. And this happens to be a quote that I particularly like, and I think it also comes back to why we get excited about being a corporation around an API. Forward-thinking businesses today realize that developers are their innovation engine, their most promising affiliates, their evangelists, or their fastest-growing resellers. Businesses are discovering that developers are modern-day channels that help them reach new consumers, discover new use cases, and propel their growth. There's a great reason to be a company that's focused on APIs and focused on the developer community of the world. So we have a saying, and we've had this saying, it's actually our CEO's saying, we've had it since day one of the company, is, wow, I can't wait to see what people will build. And if you ever look at our press releases, you will always see that his quote ends with that saying. But it's true. When we started this company, which will be about 5 years old this fall, we didn't know what they were going to do with the API. We just knew that communications was this really hairy problem that needed to be solved. So we went out and solved it. What we've been delighted about is in our own little corner of the world, we're seeing people transform the way industries work. You take customers like Uber. They've changed the way we get a ride, the way we get from point A to point B. You take Airbnb. They've changed the way that we think about getting a hotel room. You look at pay by phone. They've changed the way that we pay for parking. You look at Home Depot's Red Beacon Group. They've changed the way we find plumbers and people who can do all those handyman things that Home Depot wants you to do, but you can't really do yourself. And communications and the API is really the core to creating this wonderful customer experience. Now, when we set out on this journey as a corporation around the API, we decided that every employee in the company needed to be a part of it. So part of our onboarding is you have to develop an app. Doesn't matter how technical you are or untechnical you are going to use the API to have that experience. We also make sure that every employee does tickets, sits in the customer support department and learns what our customers' needs are. And this is part of the way that you get the rite of passage to be able to wear the red track jacket. It's a way of getting the whole company to understand that what we're doing here is serving developers, and that APIs are that tool in their tool belt, and that APIs are about helping companies scale, being able to unlock new creativity. And our goal as Twilio then is to make sure that the communications tool that they have in their tool belt is our communications API. Now, the great news is we are starting to see more and more enterprises get a hold of this idea. Our customer base in the early days was really about entrepreneurs. It was about developers. It was about people who got what this platform and this API thing was. But we are seeing more and more enterprises now jump on that bandwagon. And according to research, that looks like in about 5 years, 85% of all enterprises, large companies, will have an API program. That compares to about 43% today. And the reasons are very, very clear, and you heard some of them described in the earlier presentation. It's about boosting mobility programs, finding people that can help you take access or take control of all those wonderful mobile devices that are out there. It's about fueling a partner connectivity. It's about driving cloud integration, enabling the internal developer, as well as fostering a community around you. And so hopefully what you'll get a little bit from our discussion today is if you're trying to do any of those things, it's time to get in the mindset of the developer and look at the API as something more than just this nice little added layer to something you have, and really looking at it as something that the company can build on. So from the lessons learned from being a corporation that's really focused on the API, it really comes down to developer cred. Now, I have come from a long history of marketing, long history of technology. As you heard earlier, I teach at Stanford in the engineering school and help young developers and engineers learn how to go to market and take their products to market. And I have to tell you, I've done B2B marketing, I've done B2C marketing, started off my career in aerospace. This whole world of developers and developer marketing, it's a whole nother thing. And it is so exciting. And the developer cred is at the heart and soul of this. And I'm very pleased to say that we were just recognized by Fast Company as being one of the top 10 companies who actually have serious developer cred, but it is not by accident. Now, I've only been with the company, as you've heard, about 18 months now, so I can't take full credit. Hopefully I can take a little bit of credit of what we've been doing. But we had an advantage. Our company was built by developers, and they were really building the company for a like-minded soul. And what they understood was at the end of the day, it's about catering to doers. Doers are a very unique breed. Doers are people who take the tools out of their tool belt and they get excited about going out and building something. So you'll find the heart and soul of what we do in the company, whether it's on the engineering side or the customer interaction side or the marketing side, is very much focused on this idea of catering to the doer, making them the hero of the company. And one of the things you'll hear often us talk about and debate about is we don't market to companies. Companies are, well, they're companies, they're shells. There's a lot of people inside of them. What we want to do is market and cater to the doers, the individuals that are within that company. So for us, it's about the doers. When we think about those doers, what we found is there are really 4 types of doers out there, and we look at it based on what they're trying to accomplish. Because the reality is every doer type, every developer type, has a different reason for doing what they're doing. They have different ways of learning and engaging, and they have different needs. So at the top of the list, doers who code for enjoyment. These are the hackers. We love them. They're huge for the brand. They're huge for the buzz. Now, they may never make you a ton of money, but they're the folks that are out there trying new things and buzzing about it and talking about it and getting their fellow doers to actually take part. One of my favorite doer hacks using the Twilio API is a guy who's actually made it possible to text message your margarita machine and actually make it start making margaritas for you before you get home from work. Clearly not a lot of money in that right now for Twilio, but creates a tremendous amount of buzz around the API. The next group, code to build a business. These are the entrepreneurs. These are the Ubers and the Airbnbs and the Lyfts of the world who are leveraging software and APIs to create something new and bigger, something that is transforming the industries. And these guys are terribly exciting because the creativity is huge. We also have those who code to solve a company challenge. The corporate developer, someone who wakes up every day, goes to work, and takes on the big, hairy challenges that someone else's company has. Again, equally important. And when I look at what the R&D and the innovation labs are doing of some of the large companies out there, it's amazing the new things that they're bringing to market using APIs and using software. And then the fourth segment we work with are those who code to make a living. Those wonderful guns for hire who maybe it's just a side job where they get their own business going, but they're out there taking APIs and doing business for other companies. Once you understand the different types of developers, it's also important to understand where the motivation comes. This is the hierarchy of developer motivations, and interestingly enough, money is kind of in the middle of all this. And what's really important to understand is most of the developers you'll work with aren't in this for money. I mean, you have to live, you have to be able to pay your rent. That's why you have guns for hire out there. But they're really in this because it's a passion. They do it for the fun of building an app, 40%. They like to code. This is a pastime for them. Or being creative and getting that sense of self-achievement. So understanding what these doers, what these developers are doing goes a long way in your ability to embrace them and get them to either leverage your API or internally leverage your APIs. The other thing that we did as a corporation, in addition to understanding the developers that were around us, is really looking at what we were building as a whole product. The API is our product. Our company is built around that API. And what we get a lot of credit for is we didn't just create an elegant API that gave access, but we thought about everything that you need to do to onboard the developer. We looked at the how-tos that they needed, the sample code that they needed. We looked at giving them developer libraries to get them off the ground. So we very much look at what we build as a product so that we can make them very, very successful. We also made sure that our personal goals and values in the company aligned with the way that developers think. Again, we have the natural advantage that a lot of our company is made up of developers. But we spent a lot of time thinking about what we call our 9 things, and this is very much driven top down. And for me, what's been kind of fun is this is probably the first company I've worked for that when someone says, hey, what are your company values? I don't have to go scrambling for the HR card to find out what that was on the back of it that they gave me on day 1 when I joined. We actually lived through those values, and you can see it permeate the way we do business, the way that we interact. So just a few examples. Live the spirit of challenge. Again, thinking back to that hierarchy that you saw earlier about how developers think, it's very much about that accomplishment, that achieving, that building something new and different. Another one, empower others. Make heroes, unleash the greatness of others inside and outside the company. Again, very much catering to that spirit of wanting to create something new, develop something, and achieve. No shenanigans. Now let me tell you, this one is really hard when you're in charge of marketing. I am so used to, okay, well, maybe the product's not quite right, but maybe if we just make it look like this, then maybe people will believe that. We actually make sure that there are no shenanigans, whether it's our pricing models, it's the products that we put out to market, it's the type of promotions we do, because there's a very low tolerance in the world of developers for shenanigans. Be humble, by the way, I didn't highlight it, but number 6, that's also a really hard one if you're in marketing, because you were taught in marketing the way that you run a campaign is put the letters EST after everything. We're the greatest, we're the biggest, we're the most fantastic. When you have to be humble, that gets a little bit hard to do, but we live these day in and day out. And the one that I love, draw the owl. There's no instruction book, it's ours to draw. Figure it out, ship it, and iterate. Again, very much the way developers think. Now, little backstory on this one. When the company was very small, and it was kind of those 20 people in a room, Jeff and his fellow founders and early people in the company, Jeff Lawson is our CEO, they found this drawing. I think they Googled, how do you draw an owl? And this thing came up. You'll find, by the way, if you come to our offices, which are just a few blocks away, that there are owls everywhere as a result of this. What came up was this thing of 2 circles, and then this thing that looked like an owl. It's like, how do you get from here to here? It makes no sense, but it really does represent that spirit of the developer. And so we affectionately now talk about draw the fill-in-the-blank owl as a part of our values. All right, so company very much built around the idea of developers, understanding them, making it part of our culture. How does this then play into making developers really want to work with what you're offering there from an API perspective? And I joke about this idea of marketing 101, don't. One of the things you very clearly start to learn as you spend more and more time with the developer community is they have a high degree of skepticism around marketing. They don't want to be marketed to. They want that honest opportunity to learn and be a part of your company, but don't shove it on me. Let me find it myself. And so this permeates everything we do in terms of our marketing efforts, our selling efforts, the way we connect with the community. So our number one tool, very honestly, in marketing is our developer evangelism crew. This group is the group that goes out there and interacts with our community. And they're in marketing for a reason. They don't sell. Because if there's one thing that a developer probably likes even less than being marketed to, it's having to deal with sales reps or deal with salespeople. So our evangelists are out there, but not to sell. They're out there to share and to learn. These guys are a rare bird to find, or I should say a rare owl. They are fantastically technical. They are the top of their craft in terms of the languages they use, the skill sets they have. They love to teach, huge knowledge, and they love to share that knowledge with people. And they're evangelists for the company. They know our product inside and out. And what I'm always impressed with is I'll have people come up and go, hey, yeah, I met one of your evangelists at an event last week. Not only did he tell me about Twilio, but boy, he helped me fix this PHP issue I was having with one of the things I was building. They are really out there to be a part of our brand, but more importantly, to be a part of the community. In addition, then, when you start thinking about our more normal tactics for interacting, we have a 3-legged stool. The first one is enable them to find us. Now, this goes back to that psyche that they don't want to be marketed to, so we use a lot of inbound, traditional inbound SEO, SEM type efforts to be able to get them on board. And it works. Again, they're doers. If they want to learn something, they're going to find it. The next leg of the stool is go to where they are. We will do this year over 450 events across the United States and then just starting into Europe. We go to where they are, and this ranges from meetups to hackathons to very, very large developer events. And that's our opportunity to get involved with that community. Again, not selling, but being a part of what they're trying to build. We also go to where they live online. We're very active on Twitter and Hacker News and GitHub and the rest of the different opportunities that are out there. And again, it's about being a part of their world, not forcing them to be a part of ours. And then the third leg of the stool is very much about creating opportunities. Having places where they can come and join us if they want. So very heavy blog activity, both technical and business type blogs, as well as creating events like this one here that you're all at today, that people can join and become a part of. Now, I will say one of the most important assets we have is the website. And building a website for the developer crowd is so much different than any other website that I've been involved with. It just takes a whole different tack because of this different mentality that you have with the developers. Developers want to get to the technology. So the website fundamentally that you have to build for the developer is about technology when you want it. By the way, depending on what the segmentation is, they don't all work 8 to 5. There are a lot of developers out there doing their thing at 2 and 3 in the morning. So the website has to cater to that. What they don't want is what you classically see in a B2B site, people. People when you don't want them. Hey, let me do my own thing. It's all about self-service. So there are 3 key things that you will find on websites that are very developer-centric. The first is getting people to how it works. It's what a developer wants to do. They want to get their hands on it, they want to try it, and if they like it, they're going to keep it. And they're going to use it over and over. So websites that are catering to developers tend to be heavy on technical content and how-tos, and really giving them that opportunity to get hands-on with the product. In fact, we find that when we can follow the path, if someone comes onto the website and goes to the how-tos, we will definitely have a high conversion rate from that pool of people because they found the technology and found the information that they wanted. Next important step is pricing and making it very transparent and easy to find. The last thing a developer wants to do is hit that talk to sales or that chat button and say, hey, can you tell me how much it's going to cost me to build or use this thing? So very much focusing on how can you get into the hands of that developer the information they need on what it's going to cost to use the product. And the third is a very low friction way of actually signing up. Just as much as they're skeptical about marketing, they also really don't like to give up their privacy. And if you have a web form that requires them to give you everything that you really want to know as a company, they'll walk away, and they're not afraid to do that. Now again, for someone that's in the marketing or the selling effort around a company, this can make it really complicated because you want to continue to cater to those customers. That's just natural, but sometimes you won't know a whole lot about them. In fact, there are times where we'll have someone that's starting to really actively use the platform, and we might not even exactly know the use case because we haven't tried to invade that privacy. We very much wait till we can have an interaction with them that's natural to being together. So the funnel starts looking a little bit different. The funnel for the developer business is very much about using activities like the events and the evangelists to get into that top of the funnel, and then using the website itself to be able to move people through to where they want to sign up and use the product. And the core of all of this is if they use the product and they like the product, once they have a use case that makes sense, they're going to continue to build a business on it. Our whole company thinks this way and thinks about how to interact with the developer community based on the fact that this is our funnel. Differently than most companies that go, all right, I have the Fortune 500 list, I'm going to start calling every CIO I can until I find someone that'll have a meeting with them so I can sell my API and my software platform into them. Now, I won't lie to you, we are also, it's part of our values, I have to be honest, no shenanigans, we do also have a B2B marketing effort, but again, we're very careful that we balance that with what we're doing around developers because the corporation is about the API and the API is about the developers who use it. So when it comes down to the idea of full service, we do naturally have customers that will come to us and say, yeah, this swiping the credit card thing for $100,000 a month, maybe not working so well with finance anymore. What can you do for me? So we do make that available as well. The other thing we've done, and I said originally that, or early on, that we make every employee actually do trouble tickets in customer support. We want people to understand the product, we want people to understand our customers, and that's a natural part of it. But for us, customer support isn't just that place where you go when you have a problem. Customer support is a part of the whole life cycle. In fact, a lot of the people, before they even sign up on our website, have gone to Help at Twilio, and they said, hey, I have a few questions before I get too far into this, and our customer support team is very much part of answering that. Once they've used it, they've signed up, when they start having questions about, hey, I was trying to get this IVR thing to work, and I ran into this problem relative to my system, what can you do for me? Well, we have our customer support team there to help with that as well. So we've also thought about customer support as being very much integral to the whole life cycle of how we interact with our customers. Now, I will say this is honestly the first company, went from aerospace into software. This is the first company I've worked for where we have fans. I mean, it blows me away. You'll be at a conference or event and someone will literally see the track jacket or see a t-shirt and come up to you and say, wow, we're really excited about Twilio. Just, you should hear what we built. We really love you guys. Or I saw one of your developer evangelists last week at Hackathon. Can I tell you how cool it was to see him do live coding? I'm used to when you go to an event, customers come up and go, got a little problem with the product right now. Can we have a little sidebar discussion? We have really worked to try to make our customers fans, and that doesn't say we don't have problems, but we've tried to really make the API something that can be embraced and people can build great things around it. Now, this is actually a picture that was sent in by a group of customers. Then we have a thing about show your Twilio, get your Twilio on. And they sent this photo in. The other thing that we did very differently as a company is really embrace design. Again, that came top down from our CEO, who is a big fan of Apple of all things, and really saw that when you looked at what was going on with APIs and developer programs and embracing developers, there wasn't a lot of design to it. Everyone kind of assumes geeks don't have a fashion sense or geeks don't have a design sense. And so we actually have a team of about 7 designers They work on product, but they also work on everything that goes around the product. This is the iconic Twilio t-shirt, and you will find that developers have really gotten excited about the fact that there's a design element. We also took, not intentionally, but it really is kind of an exact lesson out of the playbook of Best Buy and the Geek Squad. I am wearing a track jacket today because it's what we do. We also have high top red Champion shoes, which just don't look great with the dress, so I didn't bother wearing them today. But when our people go out in public, they are also part of the branding of the company because we do want to get to know our community. That low friction path I described in terms of getting your hands on the product, I don't have a lot of information about my customers until they surface themselves. And it is so exciting when someone does see your track jacket or your red Twilio shoes and says, wow, we know Twilio. Let me tell you about what I just built. So branding is very much a part of what we do as well. So going through it then, when we look to develop developer cred, it really comes down to a few simple things. We focus on the doers, not an impersonal company. We make sure that they are really the heroes that we're looking at. We think of the API as a product. Again, we're an API corporation. We're built around the API, but that's actually very transferable to any other company that might have started with the solution as well. We build a culture in line with developers so that we really can understand the people that are probably most important to ever using our product. We forget about everything we ever knew about Marketing 101 because that goes out the door. It really is about embracing developers the way that makes them comfortable because they're going to be your best spokesperson out there anyway. It's about making support central to the life cycle and the full process, and it's about creating a brand for the API so it's memorable and people get excited about being a part of that API. So when we look to the future, and this is actually our vision statement as a company, but I think it's also really applicable to where software is going in general, it's all about communications that will be focused on user experiences because that's what APIs enable. They allow it to get in the hands of people who can think through from the end user perspective, not just a box of software, which sometimes has been just developed for a company. It will be built by software people, the people who take those challenges, break them into software challenges, and then solve them at scale. And we're a big believer in the cloud. We really see all solutions appropriately moving to the cloud. So we look at this as the vision of where we're going as a company, but also believe it's part of the vision of where software in general is going, APIs are going, and this wonderful world of software people. So that's where we've come on our journey of Doers.